Yes, Teddy, you were a bear. A very, very shitty bear. I was prompted to make this video because the bear has been too shitty for too long. Now before we get into how excruciatingly bad this ability is, I want to lay down a little bit of a framework on this footage. So this is trying to be as fair as possible. This is a level 58 zone, and I have a home base power of 58. And this is a tier 3 hero, I think, with fort-based stats heavily leaning in favor of tech damage build. So this ability at a high level is basically a finite ability with limited uses, and the Teddy specifically is basically geared to do single target damage. Now if we can compare this to what it actually does, I mean, you can't kill a single husk with a Teddy, you can't kill a husky husk, you can't kill a mental husk. You can probably kill a mini, but that's about it. The damage is so low on this ability that if you actually go in and calculate the DPS, I actually did this. So the DPS of the Teddy being up does about 1300 damage, generously 1400 damage, compared to my regular weapons, which can do anywhere from about 10,000 damage to 20,000 damage. Now, if you put that into perspective and calculate the time it takes to actually use this ability, to actually hit the skill and place it on the ground and deal with any other problems that arise, like the Teddy has to rotate and it rotating slower than enemies walk and pathing issues and all that stuff. It actually does less damage than if you had not used it at all. So just to put that in perspective, this ability lowers your DPS for the next 10 seconds when you use it. You can do more damage not using the ability at all than if you do. And again, for perspective, pretend that this skill could be used back to back. It wasn't a finite resource. As soon as you finished one Teddy, you could throw down another one. It would still overall lower your DPS. And while we're on the subject of it being a finite resource, let's quickly think about how powerful this skill would have to be to justify the amount of times you can use it. Now let's say you're in a map and on average you pick up, I don't know, 5, if we're being generous, Teddy fragments. So this is a skill that you can use 5 times total in one game. If you compare that to something like the soldiers going commando, you can use that roughly every 2 minutes. You could probably get that down lower depending on which one you're using. But let's say the match is 40 minutes. Well, then that's 20 times. So going commando, as strong as it is, you can use about 20 times and more if you play longer. And compared to the Outlander ability, which you can use at a max 5 times. Look at the comparison of how good would the fragment ability have to be to justify only being able to use it 5 times in a match. So what's the solution here? It's been about 2 months and we haven't got any changes to this, which is worrying, and it's even been broken before in alpha, so it's probably been broken for about a year. So if you think about what needs to happen to fix this skill, I want you to keep in mind, if you anticipate something like, let's say they increase the damage percentage by 300%. Well, it would take about 1500% to simply make the ability on par with normal weapon damage. So 15 times the current damage would be required to buff it to make it just as good as normal weapons. Now if you factor in the fact that it's a finite ability, you can only use it 5 times, it just shows you how much of a buff this ability needs. And it goes without saying that this ability is core to the identity of Outlanders. 98% of the Outlanders rely on this skill to work and to do damage, and I don't know, maybe a quarter of the Outlanders need this ability to work for them to be viable. Now this ability is really just a symptom of ability damage in general across most characters not doing well. I mean, another really good example is the anti-material charge, which is maybe worse than this skill, which both unfortunately lie on the Outlander. And this is a problem that existed since the game came out, and there hasn't been any announcement of balance changes or them even addressing the problem. That's why I felt forced to make this video. If anyone has any ideas on any other skills that I should test and try to quantify how fucked up they are, please let me know.